stability of IQ is very unstable during the early 5 years of a person's life. Let's take a look at Bloom's famous learning curve. And the same for what IQ development. Okay, so you have time here. So look at what from birth to about 3 years is here. Okay, 3 years is here. Let me. All right, you see here, from birth to 3 years old, look at how steep. Look at how steep is the curve. So the child grows rapidly and what? Brain what? Intelligence grows rapidly. So by about 5 to 6 years old, 2/3 of our what? Ultimate intelligence, 2/3 are already laid down here. So you see, it is so important for the first 5 years of life. And then Burton White, remember Burton White? He emphasized the first 3 years of life, far more important than any years later on. All right, so that's the IQ growth curve. It keeps growing, but albeit slowly. Okay, albeit slowly. But remember, if we do not have any intellectual stimulation, this line will be quite flat like this here. Okay, all right. Now, take a look at how stable our IQ score is. Okay, look at Bailey, 1949. It has been repeated since then. IQ measured at age 1 and age 17, the correlation is 0. There's no correlation whatsoever. Okay, IQ measured at age 4, say using Wechsler preschool IQ test, and 17.71. Square it, that means close to 50% of the variance accounted for. Okay, of the variance accounted for. So it is already quite stable, is that right? 11, remember 7-11? That's the concrete operational stage. And then 12 onward, in general, as formal operation. Say 1176.92 says more than 82% of the variance were accounted for. So it is almost quite steady at this point, right? So to give you an idea about the importance of our early development, okay, especially the first 3 years, according to Burton White, and according to this here, the first 5 to 6 years. Okay, now below age 10, because the child is still quite egocentric, and quite a good number of them find it hard to pay full attention. Okay, so group tests not good, but then individual tests like Stanford Binet, Wechsler intelligence scales. These are individual tests. Okay, and the Otis Lennon scholastic aptitude test at the group test. Army Alpha, the group test. Of course, we are not using that. Cattell was culture fair test. That is the group test. The majority of our existing IQ tests are group test. After age 10, individual test about the same as group test, about the same, okay? In terms of accuracy, in terms of reliability and validity, okay? Verbal group test is better than non-verbal group test, even though we know now that there is a strong cultural factor associated with verbal IQ test. All right, I remember the test that I've given you here. Say the one. What is it? The progressive Raven progressive matrix kind of one, non-verbal, is that right? And Cattell, non-verbal, okay? And there are other non-verbal IQ tests. Okay, let's take a look at cultural differences and school learning. How can we explain now in general the inferior academic performance of minority Blacks in the United States, okay, and our indigenous students in Canada? Okay, now there are a lot of theories put forward by researchers and scientists and, of course, psychologists. Inferior gene pool theory. This theory stipulates that Black people have inferior genes, or in Canada, indigenous people have inferior genes. That led to our infamous residential school. All the schools, the policy was meant to eradicate their culture, looked upon as inferior. And of course, you know now this is hugely wrong. Okay, that's a big fatal mistake. Okay, so. And we know now that we human beings, we have something like 99% of our genes identical. And there is no way we could find some gene patterns that are different. That are different for Black than for white. Different for Asian than for white. No, it's not right. Okay, it's not right. Now, David Suzuki, back in about, I can remember, 40, 50 years ago, he was highly critical of this theory in his syndicate column, okay, that appeared in several newspapers in Canada. So it is not, this is incorrect, okay? Family deficit theory, say Blacks come from psychologically deprived environment. Well, the truth is a good number of Blacks, they do come from psychologically deprived environment. Okay. They came to the Western world as slaves. We know that. Okay. So they were denied full participation in society. They were denied a proper education. They were denied lots of stuff. Denied the right to vote, denying a lot of things. You know that. Okay? You know that. So they would even now look at the United States. A majority of the Black people come from impoverished environments. And this is true. Okay, that's the legacy of slavery and what? Discrimination. Okay, that's the legacy of something akin to apartheid, okay, but covert in the United States. All right. No, but then what? Yeah, that is true. Quite a good number of them come from psychologically deprived environment. But how can we what? If this is the case, this theory should apply to non-minorities, right? It should what? We should be able to apply this theory to what? White. Okay, so therefore, what this theory is one-sided biased. Okay. Cognitive styles, concrete versus abstract, say 7-11, concrete operational stage, abstract, once what? One they turn what? One they turn 12. And once they engage in what? In formal operations, visual versus auditory. Now, but the thing is what we know that what there are individual differences, not just between the black group and the white group, but within the black group and within the white group, within the Asian group, we have lots of variabilities. Therefore, this theory is not correct because statistically we could prove that these are not the case. Okay. All right. Number 4, attitudes shown toward minority Blacks. They are seen as less competent with lower achievement goals, and therefore they receive less adequate teaching strategies. Right? This is true. Okay, a lot of school teachers and counselors, they displayed what negative attitude towards Black. Okay, they always do that. Okay, consistently. They have been doing this. So what they are telling the Black students is what? Well, we have very low expectation about your academic performance. And remember the self-fulfilling prophecy? So quite a majority of the Black students would just okay, they just behave in such a way that they fulfill those expectations. All right. So this is due to discrimination. All right. The general social and economic goals available because of what? Because of what? Discrimination. Because of discrimination. This is true. This is true. The general social and economic goals available for them are not a lot. And this is very true. And what you probably could read about this even now. Okay? And the same situation happens right now. Okay. Now, but then what? IQ comparisons between races are very difficult to evaluate. As David Suzuki once mentioned. Why? Because what? Heredity, environment, and time, all of them have a strong impact on what? the development of IQ. So IQ is a function of what? Of heredity, environment, and time. All right. So therefore, what you see here, it is what hard to pinpoint why someone has a high IQ, why someone has a low IQ. We have to consider all these, and of course, and the interactions among all these three here. Okay, are you good? Okay, take a look at the environmental conditions. A very, very famous experiment by Sandra Scars. Okay, so here she looked at, or she studied 130 Black infants right after birth. They were adopted by white middle-class families. Okay, then what? Sandra Scars followed them for many, many years. Okay? And then what? She came back with the following observation. The mean IQ of these 130 Black children, 106. Now, the mean IQ for white people is 100. 106. It is almost what? Close to a half a standard deviation above the general white, that is very high. Okay, 106 is what? Far above 100. Versus the next mean IQ for Blacks is only 85. Okay, as you must have read my previous lecture. So 85 is one standard deviation below the mean. That is not good, very low. Okay? So someone with an IQ of 85 has a better IQ than only 16% of all people taking the same test. So 85 is considered to be very low. Okay, but of course here, remember the Birch test, our IQ tests are what? Culturally biased, right? Okay. Now, IQ scores may be a function of the race of the examiner. Wow. Research studies have indicated to us, yes, this is true. How true? Well, a black examiner, okay? A black examiner will what? Consistently overestimate what? Blacks' IQs. On the other hand, the same white examiners, they overestimate what? White student or white IQ. All right. So but then what? But there is a problem. There are far more white examiners or white IQ administrators than Black. Far more. You see, this creates a problem. All right. The cumulative deficit in IQ. Now, remember, teachers and the counselors' negative attitude towards Blacks. Say at grade 2, at grade 2, they just Black students are underperforming. Okay, so the teachers will look upon them and I knew it already. So in grade 3, even more negative expectations piled on top of those before. So that is to say, then what? As this student goes on to what? Upper grade, okay? Here, more what cumulative deficit. That is to say, this student IQ becomes less and less because of discrimination, because of negative attitude toward them, and because of self-fulfilling prophecy. Teachers and counselors' attitudes is that one. I mentioned this in Central Scars conclusion. In general, very negative. Okay. Teacher competency. Now, in the United States, there are black and white, and if you have read the news, black and white, and they are what? They are separated, regionally separated. For example, in New Orleans, okay, the north, the high ground occupied by well-to-do white, those close to the sea, lower ground, okay, occupied mainly by blacks. All right, so that's the kind of one. So you will have an area occupied mainly by black people, and research studies have indicated that those teachers teaching in the black neighborhoods, okay, they are the worst teachers. Okay, they could not even pass the competency test in their own specialty area, right? So this is true. This is true. Okay, because majority of the teachers don't want to teach there. Okay, for example, you don't want to walk when you go to New York. You don't want to walk into the Harlem district. Right? It is dangerous. In Los Angeles, I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, downtown, there are certain areas you cannot venture into those areas. Your life will be in danger. All right. Within group difference or within group differences, larger than between group differences. What is that? Okay. Let's say we have one. What is it? So this is what? Say black versus white. Okay. Now, I'm sorry, I have to use this here. Okay, let's say this is black, this is white. Okay, now so B is the difference between the mean IQ of white, mean IQ of black, or mean achievement score, mean achievement score of white, mean achievement score of black. Okay, so there is a difference, and associated with the difference is is standard deviation. I say that, but then yes, but within the black group, within the white group, the standard deviation or the variance is much larger than the variance of the difference. All right. So that means what? within the Black group, we have lots of variabilities. And within the white group, we have lots of variabilities. And those variabilities kind of overwhelm what the variabilities between the two groups. So that is what is meant by within group difference, larger than between group difference. Okay, so that is to say what? That's to say what? Any comparison between the two groups will be what meaningless sometimes. Okay, it will be meaningless, and we won't be able to find what significant difference. All right, so let's take a look at test biases, test inadequacies. Yes, test biases. Most of the IQ tests, they are aimed at, now listen carefully, aimed at what? Middle class white Protestant. Okay, middle class white Protestant. So, for example, test items about what? About something on board of the cruise ship. Well, if you belong to the middle class or above, you're familiar with this. What about if you're not? You have never been to a cruise ship. Okay, some of my students in North Bay, okay, some. So what they told me, they have never been on board of a plane. Okay, I don't blame them. Okay, but that's the situation. Is that right? So quite a lot of test items are biased. And if you take my measurement course, I can also tell you that quite a good number of items, they have a sex bias. They're biased against female. Okay, female test takers. Anyway, inadequacies. And we know that IQ test ordinary, like most commonly used IQ test, they only test two things, right? Linguistic ability and logical mathematical. I remember Howard Gardner's 7 intelligences. Okay. Any IQ test testing music, testing kinesthetic, testing interpersonal, interpersonal. No. They are hard to find. Okay, very hard to find. So the existing IQ test that we have, okay, the test score represent abilities in linguistic and logical mathematical. Okay, all right. Difference in environment, yes. Well, in general, Black people and our indigenous people, they grow up in highly undesirable environment. Is that right? A lot of not to mention residential schools, but a lot of our indigenous children, they grew up in adopted homes and hostile homes, that type of thing. Okay? And you know that our government didn't pay, and even now doesn't pay much attention to them. Genetic difference. This is absolutely not true. There is no such thing. We share 99% of our genes, okay? All right, then how do we account for the difference between the difference in IQ scores between Black and white? Or later on, you will see What about Asians? Okay. Now, 1976, Robert Science, okay, not Sazons, okay, Science, Arts and Science, okay. This name rhymes with science. Robert's Science, okay. I met him, or can remember, and he introduced to me as Robert Science, okay, and several textbooks also put down his last name rhymes with science. He put forward a very famous model based on huge amount of data, say millions of data points, the confluence model. All right. Now, the data on which model is based, okay, lots of data, okay. Here, according to science, firstborn children tend to have significantly higher IQs than their younger siblings. Now, of course, this is the group finding, a general finding. You cannot apply group findings to a single individual. You can say to me, Peter, I am the last born, okay, but I'm smarter than all of my elder siblings. I wouldn't be surprised, okay? This is the general finding. We know that in general, firstborns, okay, they have high IQs than than their younger siblings. Okay, this is a general finding, and this is true. Okay, this is true. All right, so that's a very good observation. Is that right? IQ is what this is proportional. Okay, kind of a proportional 1 over number of children in the family. What does that mean? That is to say, now, if there are, let's say, 2 families. Well, let me give you an example. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, I could do this. Here, let's say this family has the mom and dad, 2 children. Mom and dad, 5 children. Okay, and in general, the average IQ of this, I'm talking about dependent variable, is what? Okay, is significantly larger than this. Okay, so the larger the family, the lower will be the average IQ of the family. All right, so this is very true. Okay, this is very true. Okay, all right. Now, twins have lower IQ than non-twins. Why? Okay, take a look at the finding. And supported by a lot of other later papers. All right, now let's say we have what 2 families. Okay, we are talking about what here. Let's say we have 2 children. This is one. This is the firstborn, the second. and what? This is what? At least three years apart. Right? So versus another family, firstborn and secondborn. Okay. Closely as it was. 1 year. Okay. And we know that what? That these two children versus these two children on the average, these two children will have what? Significantly higher IQ than these two. All right. So that's Burton White's finding, and it has been what repeatedly observed that this is the case. Okay, now take a look at these two cases together. All right. Well, if you have, well, let's say here, let's say here. Let's say 1, 2, 3 children. Okay, and all of them was say more than one. More than 3 years apart. And here we have just one. See, according to this one has significantly higher IQ than this. Now, then let's take a look. In general, this is the case, and later on we will revisit it. And what I want to take the opportunity with graph here. Let's say here, most white families, they have, well, let's say 1, 2 kids. Okay, and of course here is what? 3 to 4 years apart, sometimes 5. Okay, but in general, for what? For Black families, they have more and closer, all of them closer together. So no wonder, therefore, what? White children have a significantly higher IQ than Black. Okay, than Black children. This is what science could explain this. Okay, could explain this. All right, twins have low IQ. Why? Okay, let's take a look at twins. Say twins. One, two. Within 1 minute. Sometimes within seconds, is that right? So, according to this here, they are so close together, closer than 1 year, is that right? So therefore, in general, twins have significantly lower IQ and not trained. You may be surprised at this finding, but then this finding is based on what? Based on data. Okay, it's not conjecture, whatever, based on real data. Okay, good. Now, IQ from intact homes with what? Mom and dad living together, single parent, mostly just the mother. Okay, the father has escaped. Okay, so this is the case. Okay, so intact homes much better than single parent homes in terms of IQ. Kids raised here, they have a distinct disadvantage. All right. Okay. The only child has a lower IQ than the firstborn in a 2 or 3 child family. Take a look. Singleton versus non-singleton. All right, let's take a look. Say 2 families. This one. Boom. Just one. This one. Do, re, mi. Family 1, family 2. Okay, now we are comparing the IQ of this with the IQ of this. Okay, so observations have confirmed that this one here, the firstborn with siblings have higher IQ than firstborn without siblings. Firstborn with a sibling or with siblings better than singleton. Okay, you may ask, why, Peter? Well, here, singleton. Number 2, number 3, a lot of time depends on number 1. Let me give you a very simple example. Say number 2, say number 1, a big sister. Number 2 says, can you show me how to tie my shoelace? Of course, the elder sister was grumble and then, you're so stupid. Well, let me show you. Well, that means what? This one, the firstborn has a golden opportunity to articulate what she has already learned, right? Articulate what she has already learned. Now, remember, Benjamin Bloom's taxonomies of educational objectives. Okay, knowledge, comprehension, application, what is it? Analysis, synthesis, evaluation. Now, to show number 2, how to do this, how to do that, or even in homework, how to solve this problem, how to solve that problem. That's likely to be a normal situation. So therefore, she is operating at this level. Is that right? And not only that, she has to articulate what she has learned. Now, let's say this is an important point, a very important point. Let's say you are in the faculty of education. You have learned how to do this, how to do that, okay, that thing. Sometimes you are, say, at this level, you understand completely what that theory is about. Now you think you know everything, but wait, when you are called upon to articulate your understanding to someone else, and you find that, this is not easy, is that right? It takes one. It takes far more than comprehension to do that. It is here. Is that right? It is here. Is that not only can you apply, but you'll be able to even to what? To verbalize your what? How you apply whatever you've learned here. Is that right? So to be able to articulate it is something far more difficult than one has anticipated. All right, good. So come back to this situation here. Number one has just too many opportunities to articulate her understanding to number two and number three. Now, by doing that, here, she, number one, reaps all the benefits. Okay? Number one reaps all the benefits. And that is also one basic reason why number one has high IQ than number two, number three, number four, and so on. Okay? Now, here, comparing number one with number one, the singleton grows up lonely. Are you lonesome tonight? Yes. Singleton grows up lonely. Okay, the singleton does not have so many opportunities as this one to articulate his or her understanding to whom? Right? So that's why this is a very important observation. And that explains what this, I explain this, and what, and also what here, when they are further apart, when they are further apart, number one knows far more than number two, and number one is likely to guide number two to guide number three. Number three, normally the last one, is spoiled rotten. I hope you're not number three. Okay, okay, all right. Now, the confluence model predicts the following. IQ growth of each child is a function of the IQ levels of all the other family members. Is that right? Well, that is true. If let's say here, if these two have high IQ, this one is growing. All it takes is for these two to lend a hand to raise one, just to do this. Then number three will have one, the same IQ level as these two, right? That type of thing. Okay. So it's a function of the IQ levels of all the other family members, right? So it is very important, of course, here in what? See, 6 children, 1 year apart. So the mother gave birth to 6 of them like machine gun. Okay. Bang, 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 bang. Now, and here, versus one. Oh, versus another one here. 3 years apart. This is 3 years apart. Same size, but then this one has significantly higher IQ than this family. All right. So here, the growth of each child here, of course, it's depends on the group. It depends on what parents' IQ levels, okay, and depends on the environment. The environment is what 3 years apart, that type of thing. The more children there are, the lower the IQ, and this is true. Okay, well, let's say here versus same 3 years apart. Okay, 3 years apart. Okay, what the more, okay, the more children, the lower the IQ level. So 3 years apart, 3 years apart. But here there are more of them, less of them. That is to say, the parents, no, they like parental love, okay? Let's say even if distributed to all of them here, okay? Okay, the share for each one receives will be less than the share they receive. Is that right? If you look at it this way. So this one is what? Higher IQ than what? Than this one. Okay, same here. This one has higher IQ than this one. Okay, so it seems that lately people learn of this, and a lot of people, a lot of families have what? Either no child or only what? 1 or 2. Okay, even China had the one-child policy for, I don't know, for decades, okay, to curb what population growth. Now, China wanted them to have more children, but all those young couples, they don't want children. All right, they just want to enjoy life without being bothered by having to raise children. All right, okay. Now, the more spacing between children, the less damage to the family's intellectual environment. 3 years apart, as I just mentioned, okay, this is much better than machine gun kind of here, right? So the spacing should be at least 3 years. And even better would be 5 years. Okay. Peter Child read Burton White before I had one and each child. I had the first boy, and then we planned to wait at least 3 years. So my second boy was born 5 years later, right? Because thanks to Burton White. Okay, all right, okay. Science used the conference model to explain racial IQ differences. Okay, so according to him, and right on, he had accurate observation. Black families generally have more children and have them closer together than do average white families. And this is even true at this point in time. More Black than white families are single-parent families, and this is also true. This is also true, right? Now, let's go back to think about the residential school. They were forcefully took away children from their own parents, and then they put them into residential schools. That is something so pathetically insane for the government to have this kind of discriminatory policy. Anyway, let's move on. Take a look at this. I cut it off. This is the photocopy of August 1, 1987. Okay. Now, at that time, Harvard University was kind of intrigued by the fact that why Asian children, they have what far higher IQ than what white and black, okay? Significantly higher IQ. So Harvard kind of what some researchers came up with the following hypothesis. Okay? Most Asians they were, of course, most of them, they came to the United States as what railroad workers, cheap labor. Okay? But anyway, you know, the Asians, most of them, they have strong family ties, right? So most of them could speak 2 languages, let's say Chinese, and of course English. All of them here, all of them here, they were, where's my, all of them here, they were, they grew up in America. Now, and remember our discussion in language development. Here, Chinese language, this one, English derived from Latin, is an alphabetical language, okay? But then what? Chinese is basically what? A semantic language. And there are only two types, general types of languages on earth, okay? And of course, there are some other minor languages, but then we categorize all the languages into alphabetical and semantic. Okay? You know, alphabetical. You see the word, you do not see the meaning. Semantic language derived from pictograms. Okay, that is to say, you see the word, you see the meaning. That's what is meant by semantic language. Okay, so for example, this buffalo. You see this? This is the buffalo. Okay, buffalo. Anyway, so you see the word, you see the meaning. But of course, it has been the evolution. So nowadays, we have complicated Chinese word, but still, once you see the word, you kind of see the general meaning. Okay, so Harvard researchers as well as other. Okay, let's say one item. One item here. Okay. English speaking only. This is one. Plus an Asian language, but say plus Chinese. Now, researchers, they want using what information processing theory, is that what the English speaking person will here look at this and code it. Code it with what? What is it? One code. The Asians, this group, they look at this, and they come back with what? 2 codes. Okay, one, I don't know, one. Okay, so the theory goes like this, is that what? In general, these kids here, they have what? They have more codes than there are what? And there are what? Their classmates, English-speaking classmates. All right. So, well, that's the theory. But then later on, they have found that, well, they are very well recently, I think it is about, can't remember, maybe 20 years ago, they found that what all these Asian kids who grew up in America and without unilingual, they only speak English. Still, they have higher IQ, significantly higher IQ than their white counterparts. Okay, so why? What is happening? It's not one encoding more what code. Okay, let's take a look here. They are very successful. They say academically, and of course they have measured IQ far higher than their white counterparts. Okay, why are they so successful? Well, now we know that what perhaps is due to what? Aspiration. Aspiration and motivation. Aspiration is what? Kind of spurred on by the family. Okay, they aspire to become what? Someone significant, say a lawyer, a professor, a doctor, that type of thing. Okay, they aspire to become what? A lawyer, that type of person. Okay, and they are highly motivated to succeed. Okay, in whatever arenas. Okay, so that is also what due to the following. Okay, family encouragement and support. Okay, so family always in an Oriental or Asian families. Okay, Asian families always encourage their children to what? To have higher aspiration of themselves and what? Motivate them to what? To be good in what? School, and give them support. Now, what kind of support? So let me give you an example. Okay. So this is an Asian family, and this one is what? Say the US and also in Canada too. During the summer holiday, okay, both what? Say both of them will look forward to work, to have a summer job, so that to have what? Pocket money, right? Now, the white family, most of the time what the parent will say, oh, you go get a job. Here, Asian family, the likelihood is no. Don't get a job, okay? Why don't you read more books? Okay, I will pay you for whatever you would have earned in the summer. That type of thing, that type of support. All right. So that what then, well, of course, these kids, they summer after summer after summer, they realize the importance of what being successful in school, what that means to the future. Confucius, plus deep-seated philosophical belief of the pen is mightier than the sword. So Peter Shaw grew up like this, okay? That was. My parents were strongly, sometimes forcefully encouraged me to study hard, okay? Pen is mightier than a sword, okay? That type of thing. So then, well, I grew up with the belief that knowing how to fight is not very practical, okay? But knowing how to write, it is practical, okay? So I grew up, and then I studied hard, okay? I studied hard, but I also know something about the sword. If you find out more about this child, I actually I taught Tai Chi, the soft start Kung Fu in North Bay for 19 years. Right? I don't think any one of you have taken my class, okay? But because of the pandemic, I have stopped doing that. Okay? And I have not charged a single penny, okay? All right, that's my way of giving back to society. Anyway, success in education served as a yardstick to measure both the personal and family success and status as well. That is the measuring yardstick for most Asian families. Okay, not so much as a yardstick to measure wealth, but to measure how successful you are in school, that type of thing. Okay, so it is quite different. Okay, so all these here pertain to to raise children to be to be smart and to be successful in school. And I will continue with this in my next lecture. Thank you.